I want you to understand this, that Satan doesn't want a culture shift. So what does he do? He targets the future or potential kings and influencers of society. And who are those people? You. Satan is very long-term in his thinking. He's very strategic. Most of us are very tactical. You know, we think, many people don't think beyond their bellies. And that's why a lot of conferences are focused on how you can use your whatever to get something. And it's not that those things are not good. Is this making sense? But, any truth taken to an extreme is an error, like I said before. And the point is this: Satan is looking at your children, your children's children. And when they were building this church 120 years ago, they sang hymns, they had fun. But they did not think 120 years that somebody will be selling this church and almost crying because nobody wants to worship God anymore. What am I saying to you? Listen to this. If we are going to shift culture and shape culture, not only do you have to become a king in your generation and an influencer, your children have to. Because they are the ones going to rewrite the laws. No, you didn't get it. They are the ones going to, I said some things and I deliberately said them yesterday about the school that God had us send our children to. Okay? It was the general idea and the courses, not that we chose them for them, but, we guided them. Why? Because, there is a plan. And it's only God that can fulfill that plan. And also, they have to yield to it as well. But a number of people over the years say, oh, how did your children get to this school? How can you have... Good. But you don't... There is a bigger agenda. It's not so that, because you can send them to those schools. And those schools, the way they are designed is to make... It's like, at the end of an assembly line, a product comes out. The way those schools are designed, even though they are learning engineering, philosophy, and the way they are designed is by the time you go through the process, they come out unbelievers. They went in Christians, they came out agnostics or atheists, even though they taught them RE. What am I saying to you? But it is important as we talk about these things that if you can talk about education, you can talk about media, and that these children will possess these things, music, entertainment, and all of those things. But if your house is in disorder and dysfunction, you know what? Even though they are teaching them in Sunday school, they will come out crooked. They will actually become these politicians. They will become influencers and things that in their head they are saying they believe in God, if they still believe in God, but their lifestyle is showing something else. Is this making sense? I had a saying many years ago. I used to travel to the Bahamas to go to Dr. Miles Morrow's conference. We became close to him and all of that. I don't know if it was mentioned there, but somewhere along the line, I had a phrase which said, if we don't build better families, we would have to build bigger prisons. I don't think you got that. The problem with many, especially Western countries, I think all over the world, they don't have enough prisons. Do you know why? Because more people are becoming thieves. More people, in fact, you know what? They're even setting prisoners free earlier. Now, the real issue that we should be addressing is the root. Where do these people become criminals? They start in the family. And it will amaze you that if you go to prison today and just go on prison visit, many of the prisoners were once Christians. And you will find that many of the Islamic extremist terrorists were once Christians. There are people's children I know that became Islamic terrorists. What will make Somebody who was raised in a home, that the parents were almost pastors, eventually become an Islamic terrorist. It is the dissonance they see in the home. Let me explain what I mean. The sad thing about Christianity is that we have a lot of misnomers. We say we are something when it is not representative in our lives. How are you? I am blessed and highly favored. And your children see that you are not blessed. At least, when I say that you are not blessed, I'm not talking of blessing of the kind of car you drive and all of that. They see that your life is crooked. They see that you and your wife are always fighting. The only reason why you are together is so that the church will not know that you are really divorced. Is this making sense? Now, what am I trying to say to you? I need to. So I want to deal very quickly with some very quick things. So my approach is going to be, I'm going to deal with 3 C's: the curse, the cause, and the cure. And then we will now deal with the power of strength. So this is in discerning or diagnosing the culture in your family. And I use the word diagnosing. It's a medical term, which means to diagnose means you agree something is sick. And so you are trying to find out what kind of sickness it is, isn't it? Listen to this. For many years, I have said that, we Christians, I think we will do a better job than Denzel Washington and Tom Cruise. We are very good at acting. Yeah. We act blessed. So me, I don't like to pretend. That is me. In fact, I mean, let's leave that alone. That is just my composition. If something I will say it as it is. Now, the point I'm trying to make is this. I think there comes a time, even if you've been confessing, and people are dying around your family, that you should say, hold on a minute. There's a problem here. Innit? By the time, let me explain what I mean by it. By the time, okay, let me use this. Some years ago, a member of our church, it will probably be about 6 years ago, a lady came to me on a Sunday service, ran to me after the service. Pastor, and she was sweating. Pastor, please pray for me. Why? I just graduated. They don't pray for people who graduated. He rejoiced. Say, no, you don't understand that you have to pray for me urgently. I said, why? I said, I graduated this Saturday. Okay, Sunday, Said, in our family, when the firstborn graduates, the father dies. I said, come on, you are covered by the blood of Jesus. One of those emergency kind of prayers. Because I'm like, come on, what are you saying? She said, no, my dad told me that. When the firstborn in their family graduated, his dad died. His older brother too. When the firstborn got, and I said, look, coincidences, So I just said, okay, Father, Lord, bless her, because I was really tired. I went home Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Pastor Banks, was it you? Yes, it was Pastor Banks that called me. I said, Pastor, do you remember that girl that came to see you and tell you that somebody she graduated? Her dad just died. And I can give you one story, and we're in London, which means whatever found the dad didn't need visa. Hello. And that is, one of many times. Such that what I'm saying is that, thank God, for what the faith dimension taught us. But as I grew in the Lord, as it were, I don't know, maybe working under the man who trained me, as it were, or the people who trained me, I began to understand that there are certain things. And when you listen to people like Pius Gelting, you will say, thank God for what they brought to us. But there are some things on the ground. Does that make sense? There are some things that these people did not deal with. And we need to understand. And so, what am I trying to say? Listen to this. Generally, how many of you know that I look well? And Do I look well? I feel well too. But there was a time I traveled to Nigeria. I actually went to the north. I went to Kaduna. I went to my mentor's camp. I drank, what they call it, kunu, ate all sorts of. When I go there, I eat, I love the. But when I came back, after a number of days, my tongue started to feel bitter. I started to develop a fever, chills, rigors. And then I was rushed to the hospital. I was hospitalized for 2 weeks. Prior to then, I'd never been to an NHS, it was a terrible experience. I almost died. Essentially, in fact, it got to the point where I started to have, I knew cerebral malaria was probably setting in. So now the point I'm trying to make is that I needed to be honest with myself that I was sick. To take that, and I also needed to diagnose that what is this sickness before it can be treated. And then the people also needed to also diagnose, the doctors, what is the cause. And they'll say, what is the causative marriage? So when they were arguing, we think it is influenza of the. I said, it's malaria. They said, oh, how do you know? I said, I'm a doctor and I'm a practitioner. I have experienced malaria many times. I know the symptoms. So they were saying, okay, maybe we'll treat with so. I said, please, just get me chloroquine. The next person coming on the plane from, he said, look, maybe it's 50 kobo or something like that in those days or something. Just get me chloroquine. I knew the cause. I said, a mosquito must have bitten me within the last 10 to 14 days. And when it bit me, I didn't know. It's when I came to London, the thing started to manifest. My question is, what bit you and when did it bite you? Because many of us are carrying symptoms of something. Is this making sense? And you see, the reason why this is important is because Satan wants to perpetuate and propagate negative cultures. And those cultures will hold sway when you are beaten and you just continue to pretend like you don't have malaria. But everybody else is seeing you doing like this.